Sup guys, it's your boy, Ryan, and I just got back from church camp the other day, and I learned a lot. I was not expecting to learn so much at church camp. I was expecting to learn new ways to annoy people, because that's, what I do everywhere, but I learned a lot of new things at church camp. Quoting the Bible is super easy. You just have to put a city and a number together, and then you can prove any point you want. People will be like, Ryan, why didn't you show up for breakfast? And you can just be like, Parisians 2015. And they're like, yeah, that's a quote. I believe it. I saw people do it all the time. People would be like, yeah, I think swearing is wrong because of Romans 405. Then you'd be like, actually it says swearing's okay in Beijing 34. As long as it sounds like it's from the Bible, you can use it to prove whatever you want. You can be like, Ryan, why aren't you wearing pants? I'm like, the Bible doesn't say I have to. It probably does. And you could be like, actually, Agrippa 49. Yeah. So basically, just throw a city and a number, and you can prove whatever you want is from the Bible. Secondly, you can prove whatever you want is true by saying that God told you. Ryan, why didn't you do the required reading? God told me not to. God told me that you should give me your extra ice cream sandwich. God told me that I'm not fat. God told me that we should probably make out. God told me that Christy is the worst. God told me that she's basically as boring as a piece of paper. See? All these things that you could say and people would be like, I think you're wrong, you can now prove are true because you said God told you them. You can do it whatever you want and still sound like a good person if you put godly in front of it. Ryan, why were you out swimming past curfew and wear your clothes? Excuse me, I was godly skinny dipping. Don't judge my beliefs. Ryan, you're eating way too much. Save some for the other kids. Excuse me, I'm godly eating? Thank you. Basically anything you want, just put godly in front of it and you can do it and people believe you. I saw people do that at camp all the time. I learned a lot of new stuff about praise and worship music. For example, it's not a praise and worship song if the slide on the screen isn't wrong at least once throughout the whole song. Secondly, you're supposed to clap. Even if the music doesn't sound like you should clap along to it, you just sort of throw beats in, just sort of randomly, just kind of clap along, because even if you hear the song and you're like, wait, no one should ever clap to this, that sounds totally wrong, you should clap to it. Everyone will clap to it no matter what the song is, so you just gotta clap along, and it doesn't make sense when you're supposed to clap. They're not good songs with good beats. You just gotta throw some clapping in. Also, each song can go on indefinitely long. The worship leader can just repeat whatever verse they want for as long as they want. They can just repeat it. They can keep singing. You think the song's over, but it can keep going. I've seen them last an hour. Just be aware before you start a praise and worship song, this could be an hour-long commitment. This could be as long as an episode of Jane the Virgin. Just know what you're stepping into. I'm pretty sure there's some praise and worship songs out there that started in the 90s. It just never ended. People are just still there singing. I learned a lot of new things about praying. See, a lot of people just make up the prayers as they go, which I try and do with my papers in English class, and my teacher's kind of like, Ryan, you literally can't do that. No, you are failing. But I try and it just didn't work. But that's okay with prayers is what I've learned. Not okay for English papers, but prayers people just make up as they go. What I learned is that there's a formula to do it. So if you don't know what to say, you just every fourth beat is Lord. It's Lord, I thank you for this turkey, Lord. I pray for my cabin mate, Derek, Lord, because he won't stop snoring, Lord, and I am up all night, Lord. See, perfect prayer, right there. Also, be aware that sometimes praying can lead to pimples. I used to think I only got pimples when God was angry at me, but I learned at camp that sometimes when people are praying, they touch you, and sometimes they touch your face, and they touch your arms and your legs and stuff, and you saw them in the bathroom, they definitely didn't wash their hands. It's a little gross, but you can't stop them because they're praying over you, and so they're touching you, and just be aware that as you feel their sweaty fingers grasp onto your flesh, they're probably putting their dirt there, and you're probably gonna get a pimple there, which is awful, but you gotta deal with it because it's praying. So I guess I learned that pimples sometimes just come from people's grossness getting onto you, and not just because God is angry at you, which I guess is a new thing for me. So I did learn something pretty important at church camp. But just be aware, when people say they're going to pray over you, they're going to touch you, and they're going to give you pimples. I saw you, Jeff. I can feel the s'mores on your hands, Jeff. I know you haven't washed them. I can feel the marshmallow. I can feel the stick, and you're touching my neck. Neck pimples are the worst. But Jeff doesn't know that, or Jeff doesn't care, because he's just gonna touch you while he's praying. Oh, come on, Jeff, just watch your hands. But anyways, I had a great time at church camp. I made some new friends, like Derek, and I learned a lot about singing and praying and how to look like a good person. So that's kind of cool. It wasn't the vacation I was expecting, but church camp was pretty great. There were lots of trees and friends, and the only thing that I like more than trees and friends is smoothies, which they didn't have, but like that's okay. So I had 2 of my 3 favorite things in the world. So it wasn't that bad. Comment below with anything you learned at camp or church camp or VBS or anything like that. Put that down below. Remember to subscribe. New videos on how to be a cool, awesome person every Thursday. And like this video. Like hit that, smash that like button, as people say. Hope your summer's going awesome. I'll see you next week. TTYL, my peoples. Bye.